We're back to the Total Tutor Show, powered by the Beach Lifestyle Celebrity segment, and I'm always excited to bring my co-host on the line, simplyg.com. GJ, how are you?
Doing fantastic, and excited for another show.
Well, I'm excited for this guest again because really doing some fantastic things. I was researching a ton of stuff, and then if you would pull up his pictures, and if you're interested in understanding what's going on in the Latin community, especially in Latin music, and how big a superstar he is, I'm just really excited to welcome the program, Anand Bhatt. Anand, thanks for calling.
Hey, you bet. Thanks for having me on the show.
So tell us a little bit about your background, and we'll get into talking about all the great work you're doing with children.
Awesome. So I'm the first Indian American to be a voting member at the Latin Grammys and to be at the Latin Grammys. So I mean, it's pretty exciting, man. I spoke Spanish growing up. I learned Spanish actually to impress a girl, but it's really cool that to be an Indian guy and be accepted in the Latin music scene like this. It's really fun.
Well, it sounds like it, and it's something that, having the success in music, you definitely wanted to give back to the community, right, from the success you've been having.
Yeah, to me, that's one of the coolest and the luckiest thing as musicians that we get to do. Nobody tells you that when you're a kid and you want to grow up to be a rock star. Nobody tells you that, you get to a point where you can actually make some impact to the world around you. And I mean, that's the icing on the cake. Now, now that I'm in my 30s, that's the most important part about it all.
Well, absolutely. Let's go with specifically a couple of foundations. I know GJ definitely is going to be a great help to your organizations because of what he's been able to do, but we'll talk about that in a second. But first, tell me a little bit about, you're involved with Simply Smiles. Tell me a little bit about that organization.
Yeah, Simply Smiles is a foundation and charity that I endorse. I came across them in Mexico. They had a strong foundation in Oaxaca, Mexico. And the thing that really struck me about Simply Smiles is it's not your traditional model of let's get donations and make programs and try to benefit from a donation to program base. What they do is in Oaxaca, the community that we're trying to help grows their own coffee. And through Simply Smiles, they've been able to put together an infrastructure to bring that coffee to market in order to raise money for the people in Oaxaca, which is awesome because they're working. They're working it off. They're benefiting themselves. They're creating an economy for themselves to help, build schools and dig wells and everything you could possibly do. It's not just simply a donation process, which is really exciting. So everyone involved is really passionate about it. And I just love that model, so I had to get involved with it.
Well, it sounds like it. And again, we always have to give back and to look at specifically areas where they're less fortunate. Something that brings anyone that has some sort of status that they can really be a great poster child for that organization. And GJ, again, as us being an international talk show, it's always great to try to help out the entire world, not just the United States, right, G?
Well, correct, and part of my mission is definitely to help, transform millions of lives globally. And, every week we've got, new guests on our show, and it's amazing how our reach is becoming more and more of a global reach, and having, guests that have a global reach as well. And obviously you've been able to do that. So would you be able to give a little backstory of how you got started and a little backstory to that, for the listeners that are just, finding about exactly who you are, and then we'll come back to, how they can find out more about you and your cause as well.
Sure. I guess the backstory about global, my parents moved to the States in the 60s from India, and I was born and raised here, and I sing Latin music. So I'm in a lucky position where I've been able to have some level of global impact like you guys, being an international show, and, being the first Indian to be at the, Latin Grammys and having some spokesperson impact for charities, like we talked about earlier, one of the ones I chose was Simply Smiles, and they help the children and communities in Oaxaca, Mexico, and also they've branched out to Indian reservations in the United States. But Oaxaca was the main program that I endorsed. And, it's kind of cool, like you were talking about, to have a global impact across several nations, not just here in the United States, even though we're based here in the United States. And then another one of those organizations is the David Lynch Foundation, which, having an Indian background, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the David Lynch Foundation, but director David Lynch, he's a huge Hollywood director, formed this foundation based on transcendental meditation to teach the kids in schools. And the project I am most excited about at David Lynch is Operation Warrior Wellness, which is transcendental meditation for soldiers coming back home with PTSD. And I've had the privilege of being able to talk at VA hospitals and seeing the direct impact of a meditation slowing down the mind focus on improving post-traumatic stress symptoms. And that's another international tie-in, being I grew up in a Hindu Indian family. So, transcendental meditation was just always a part of my life, and it's really cool to also be able to bring other aspects of that culture into our charities back home in the U.S.
And it really, when we talk about post-traumatic stress disorder, we see a lot of times that these soldiers go through some very, very hard times, and to kind of get them back into the normal routine, that's a challenge, right, to really do that. And so this program's really working, isn't it?
Yeah, especially here in the States where, meditation is not a daily practice. We're often shocked at the level of impact that we get. It's just as good and sometimes better, and especially when it's done alongside traditional, medical treatment, of course. The impact is amazing. It's really working, which is exciting because PTSD from soldiers is plagued us for a long time. I mean, it's really a scary, horrible thing that, guys have to go through when they come back home.
And GJ's a former a soldier, so GJ, I think that's another great cause that you want to be involved in. Isn't that right, G?
Well, it's amazing that this topic keeps coming up. In the last week, this topic's come up 3 times, and all 3 people were saying how, because of my background, even though I've never had suffered from PTSD, I understand it, and also obviously being a former soldier, I understand some of the dynamics of once you're out of the military without any issues. And, I've been told, I need to get more involved, so this is definitely confirmation I need to get more involved. So we definitely need to have a talk, offline, how we can help each other. And I definitely know that it's something I'm passionate about. And so I'm glad that we connected on the show here. And,
yeah.
Cool. So where can our audience find more information about you and your causes? And we'll come back to a couple more questions.
Oh, you bet. Well, the best place would be my Facebook page or Twitter page, so you can see updates of everything amalgamated in one spot. So that is facebook.com/Anand Bhatt Rock, which is spelled ANANDBHATT. And then my Twitter handle is just my name, one word, Anand Bhatt, ANANDBHATT. Those are probably the best 2 places to keep in touch with me and find out what's going on with the various charities and the music and everything.
Well, I'm glad to hear, again, how you're helping others. And then we were talking off air about your help with another organization, so we'll definitely have to have you back on a regular basis to talk about how we can help those organizations out, and also promote your projects that are coming up, because we all know this, we constantly are busy, not just helping with our foundation, but our profession as well. So that's very interesting. And when you think about specifically helping out in these foundations, what does it make you feel to be able to help them out? Is it something that really kind of gives you that giving back feeling, but also that feeling that I'm finally making a difference in people's lives by being involved in these organizations?
That's a good way to put it. I think you hit a certain age where you need to have some impact, right? Life is all about you when you're young, and then you hit a certain age and you just feel the need to have some value and impact on the world around you. If these organizations didn't exist, I would have started them myself. And I'm very fortunate of the fact that both Simply Smiles and the David Lynch Foundation exist, so I don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's great to be able to just step in, and when I'm able to actually have impact for these organizations and their programs and other programs in general, it just gives you finally that feeling of, just being a useful member of the world.
Right, and that's the key. I think that once you know that through your God-given talent that you have been given, now you can give back. I know everyone loves your music, but now you can do things that, you know, if you were just a regular average Joe, you wouldn't be able to do. So I completely see that, where you wouldn't be able to kind of be able to help out these foundations and make sure that you're the voice for them. And GJ, that's the key thing about Simply G as well. Your success as an entrepreneur, G, has made you want to say, now I'm going to go and work with these organizations and really make a difference for people, right?
Well, absolutely. And then the other component is like a lot of organizations are struggling to raise money because of the way the economy is. And I think, like an entrepreneur, because I am an entrepreneur, I'm like, okay, well, how do we get creative to raise money and actually do good and give back? And you touched on it, you know, even if these organizations didn't exist, you would get involved and create one. And unfortunately, they are created, and so now you're able to use your platform and use your voice to, help facilitate, a cause and further the cause. And so, my way I look at things is just simply, how do we entrepreneurially raise money to do good? And so that's why I created the Mission G Foundation, and to get involved in causes that, we're all involved in and believe in. And Neil's, happens to be one of the directors. And so I'm excited that you came on the show, and I'm excited that we can do more good, globally.
That's great to hear, especially when you're talking about the entrepreneurial spirit, because I think a lot of organizations need to get away from the straight donation model, especially in an economy like today's. Generating income for projects, or just it's not all about the money also, just being able to get the objectives done is something that comes more from a corporate entrepreneurial side, something that an entrepreneur or a CEO would take for granted, that not-for-profits don't really have a lot of experience with. And it's not all about, the traditional fundraising model. There's something that has to be tweaked within, and they definitely need an organization like yours to help out with, even on a consulting basis, just come in and tweak infrastructure within, just so it doesn't have to be totally dependent on a fundraising model in order to get objectives done.
Well, absolutely.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
No, that's fine, G. No, he's saying definitely, absolutely. GJ is the business guy, and that's why I have him right at my side saying that we're going to take this to the next level, because what happens is a lot of times people don't have that voice. They're not able to come out and talk about their charity and foundation as a successful celebrity. A lot of times they'll want to talk about your music the entire time, or they want to talk about who you're dating, and they forget about one of the things, and that's why we created this show and created this segment, is to really give back and to really get people to be involved in this. So two things I wanted to touch base. One is I wanted to know where our listeners can find out more information on you, and that's the second question. But the first question is, we on this show set a 90-day challenge where every guest comes on to tell us what their goal is for the next 90 days, either in their career or their foundation or in their life in some ways. So what is your 90-day challenge, and then where can we find all the information so that our listeners can get involved in both organizations?
Wow, we have great timing with that question because it ties into both personal career-wise and with the foundation. I put out an album called Fit Kids, Happy Kids, Healthy Kids, geared towards parents and teachers, who teach the younger kids. And the purpose of the album was not just to raise funds for various programs, but also to address some of the health and educational concerns that parents and teachers are running into with kids, especially when it comes to, basic nutrition and exercise programs. There's another foundation which we can talk about in another show, that focuses on that. And so actually for the next quarter or so, the next 90 days, we're looking at driving more awareness of Fit Kids, Healthy Kids, Happy Kids, which is available on iTunes, is where most people are getting it. iTunes, as well as all other major retailers. And that one was on the first round ballot to be considered for this past Grammy Awards. We didn't make it to the nomination side, but just getting that far and having it recognized by other musicians is great enough just to raise awareness for the charities. And so for the next 90 days, I'm hoping awareness grows and more people check out Fit Kids, Healthy Kids, Happy Kids, and actually use it in their households and classrooms. One, I want that album out there. I want it to get more attention. And two, I want more awareness for the charities that album supports to grow as well.
Well, fantastic. And then again, your Twitter handle, websites to find out information on the other stuff as well.
Twitter handle is Anand Bhatt, ANANDBHATT. And, of course, Facebook.com/AnandBhattRock.
All right, well, fantastic. It was awesome to have you on. I hope you stay on the line after the interview is over so we can touch base for a couple seconds so that GJ can get your information, see how he can help out in a lot of your causes, because that's what G does. He definitely does, and he's been helping out a lot of celebrities. So I appreciate you calling and look forward to having you back on in a couple months to talk about some of the other stuff that we were talking off air about. So take care now.
You bet.
All right, you're listening to the Beach Lifestyle Celebrity segment on the Total Tutor Show, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Thousands of people a day are joining this hottest 90-day